Well, greetings again, everyone. I hope you're all doing very, very well out there. And I'm shooting this way later in the night than I really should be. But I kind of had the feeling to kind of do this in between certain things here and there because let's get you up to speed on what's been going on the channel here. Because I finally, after all these years, batting the concept around, batting the idea around, having false starts getting to it, I finally did the video on Underworld. Now, this was something I mentioned before. I'll go through it quick. There was maybe 7-8 years ago, I tried to do this full franchise retrospective thing that didn't work out because it just got too unwieldy to work with. Then there was another one I tried to do about 2016 or so, and it didn't quite click with me to go forward on. So I finally committed myself to kind of figuring out how to do it and just get into the right mindset, research things properly, and get into everything I needed to get the video done. And it ended up being a very long process to get the video out, and it wasn't entirely part of the reason I kind of putting it off because I didn't know how popular of a video would be. I don't really have any gauge to really figure out exactly how much people were kind of yearning for me to talk about the Underworld franchise, but it's been something that had been sitting on the list for so very long, and I just felt like I just got to get this thing out of the way finally and get it done and get it done well. And I thought I did get it done very, very well. I thought it was very well done video. But when you look at me doing the John Wick retrospective stuff, and then I did the Highlander video, and now I did this one, they're all very large, long projects I did, and that ended up changing the kind of what I was planning to do in the next couple of months here that I'm going to get to and break down a little bit in short time. But we also got the commentary out for Dawn of the Dead, the original film. And later this week, we'll drop in our commentary for Cliffhanger, our 30th anniversary one that's a little ahead of the anniversary because we got something else we'll be recording for the latter end of this month. That'll hit on yet another anniversary that's about 20 years. So we want to kind of move it around here and everything like that. So we did, at the very end of it, when we get to the very long end credits, do discuss what this news was about a new sequel coming out with Stallone attached in some fashion whatsoever. Anything like that. So guys, that I really enjoyed the commentary. Listen back to it. It was very, very fun, very talkative. We have a lot of good things to talk about in the whole thing. A lot of character dynamics and interesting things, a lot of behind the scenes, interesting things going on. There's a lot of discussion to go on. I think you guys will really, really like it. So hopefully you'll check it out. It should drop maybe about Friday or so here on the channel. But I'll keep you updated on the social medias and the community tab here on the channel. And I did post a Blu-ray news video after a long hiatus on that thing because there wasn't a whole lot of things coming up that really had much to talk about aside from bitching more about that Superman 4K collection that had a lot more bad things coming out about it. But you go back and watch the video if you haven't one already. I do recommend one video in particular to check out that broke down that entire thing. But one thing I have to update that Monday morning, Kino Lorber made some adjustments to their announcement about the Needful Things 4K set because they were doing a 4K Dolby Vision new master on the theatrical cut, but they originally announced that the television version, which runs much longer, was going to get a new 2K interpositive scan. Well, that has changed. It is now going to be an upscale to HD. It's going to be some old broadcast master disc upscaled to high definition. So that I put that out on the community tab and Twitter and stuff like that here and there, just to kind of get the word out in that regard, because since I did the video on it, I know we talked very extensively about that getting a fresh scan and stuff like that. Apparently the word I saw on the Blu-ray news, Blu-ray.com forums when I posted this there, was that apparently someone on there knew that months ago that they wouldn't be able to do it because there wasn't an actual cut negative for that version of the film, where it would force Kino Lorber to actually go back and reconstruct the whole thing on film and redo the whole thing in that regard, recut the whole thing to create that from a high-resolution film source in that regard. So apparently that was reported on the forums months ago that they didn't have a cut negative to scan from it, but that was still the thing they announced last week, and then they adjusted this week. So a little less than great on that regard. I don't know. I don't like the theatrical cut that much. I'm much more interested in seeing that extended version, so I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. We do have it as a commentary to come out early next year. We were originally going to hit off the 30th anniversary in August, but that would have been like back-to-back with Cujo, and we wanted to kind of break it up and do something else at that point in time. So me and Steve kind of felt it was okay to kind of push it off because we weren't that hot on it, and if we're going to prepare for certain other things, good to kind of space things out so we can maybe revisit the book or something else like that. I don't know. But also be kind of close after the release date to kind of catch up on it and stuff like that. So I'll see what happens. But we'll keep you guys updated where things are slotting in the schedule when we get closer up to the dates when we're going to actually record things. But however you want to deal with that. You'll still get the 4K version of the theatrical cut, but the TV cut that runs about 191 minutes, I think I read, maybe something. It runs a whole lot longer. A lot more subplots, a lot more exploration of characters and stuff like that. Runs much longer, but it'll be probably from a standard def source upscaled to HD. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that regard at this point in time. But anyway, that's an update for you guys. Let you guys know about that. But lost my train of thought in some places here and there. Okay, so Underworld stuff hit and stuff like that, and it was the fact that I've done like 3 like major long videos in a row now since March. From March into now, I needed to clear the slate and do something completely different, because originally I was hyping up that I was gonna like charge in and do the last 2 Mission Impossible films before Dead Reckoning Part 1 comes out in the middle of July, but that would require me to do like Rogue Nation right now and then break off and do something else and then come back and do Fallout right before that comes out and then see that one in the theater and get off of that. And then there was the whole thing. It's like, okay, they got the new Transformers movie coming out. I was like, okay, maybe I'll do a review on Bumblebee and kind of get off on that. It's like, okay, this is too much chasing deadlines and release dates. I just said, fuck off. I can't do it. I cannot do this right now. I need to relax. I need to do some. Doesn't have to be specifically like majorly truncated type of things. I don't have to be doing like 10, 15, 20-minute videos, but I just need to clear the slate and do something completely different, something that was fun to take care of, and just something that just felt completely fresh and fun and different and stuff like that, where I'm not racing against that stuff, or I am looking at the raw footage and it's like an hour and 5 minutes long, and I'm going to be chipping away at this thing for like a week and a half. I need to boil it down to something to just be kind of just refreshing to a certain degree. So I just sat down and watched my Blu-ray copy about a week ago of Pacific Rim. Now this is, I bought this used many years ago. I don't know why I bought the 3D version, because I don't have a 3D TV, never have, but I decided to grab the used version for the same price that the regular Blu-ray version was selling over at Best Buy. I don't know why my brain was thinking this way at this point in time, but I did grab up this version, which has the second bonus features disc on it, plus the Blu-ray, plus the 3D version, which I don't need, and it didn't come. Since it was used, someone already redeemed the code or whatnot, so I never got a digital copy for it, but I sat down and watched this last week, and I know I probably watched like a snippet of it or whatnot on FX long ago, because that's why I upgraded from DVD up to Blu-ray at that point in time. But man, the thing felt like the exact same way I felt watching the thing in the theater. Man, this was fun. It was a fun, refreshing type of thing, to the point where, okay, I have marked this as the next review, and I didn't get to it as soon as I wanted to, but I was like, you know what, if I'm going to go back and rewatch this so soon, I need to get this thing up on 4K, and I got the 4K disc. Now, this was not an easy thing to come by. Amazon does not have it listed. It's only third-party sellers and all that type of stuff. So I couldn't get it. I was going to do this thing over the weekend, but once I got to the weekend, I wasn't feeling quite as up to it, because I was having some sleep problems I'm still combating. Hopefully I will resolve them soon. We'll see what happens. But I didn't have the energy to jump into this thing. I was doing some watching of behind-the-scenes stuff, but I just couldn't. I could not get in the right mindset to do this thing. But originally I want to get it done for the weekend and stuff like that, but I couldn't quite figure out where to grab the thing, because I went all over the place on my day off trying to find some place that had it, whether it was new or secondhand or something else like that. Nobody had a copy of it. Nobody at all. And Best Buy and Target don't carry it in the stores anymore, because the thing was put out back in 2016, so not likely they'll carry something that's been floating around the entire market that long. And so I couldn't get it from there. I couldn't get it from Target online fast enough, and Best Buy would take like a week unless I want to pay like double the money to get it here sooner. Thankfully, I I figured out how to get this thing in time. Walmart has some. I never get stuff from Walmart. I don't care for shopping there. But they had this entire thing, a 30-day trial of something called Walmart Plus, which seems like it's almost like the version of Prime or whatnot. You can get things super fast. So I signed up for the 30-day free trial, and this thing arrived within 2 days. And actually, it arrived in 2 days from when I ordered it. From when it shipped, it got there within a day. So I got this thing. Sadly, the problem I had when I opened the thing, and everything's fine generally on the physical end of things, but when you open the thing up, there's no digital code left in it. And when I contacted Warner Brothers, they said the offer had expired, so they cannot issue me a digital code. So I bought this twice, and I still don't have a goddamn digital copy of this damn thing, which does have Dolby Vision. This just has HDR10. And it's a 2K upscale, but I was like, man, that thing has a bitrate about 22 megabits per second. Even though it's a 2K upscale, the HDR and the added resolution to get the extra bitrate is going to make a difference. I previewed a little bit of this thing, went about midway through the film, and there's a lot of vibrant things happening with the kaijus and the Jaegers going on. It's worth it. It's worth it. And it's got Dolby Atmos, where the other one just had a 5.1 and a 7.1. This has proper Dolby Atmos. So if you're definitely looking for it, grab it as you can. It's still selling for like $25. So it's a weird type of thing that maybe also the fact that it's been out for so long and there still has a slipcover on it brand new. Maybe the thing just didn't sell that greatly. I don't know that they still have, if they're still producing slipcovers. I don't know why they would. Weird type of things. Usually there's like the first pressing gets the slipcovers and everything else just regular keep cases, stuff like that. But any which way, anywhere you want to roll it, it's like, I'm glad to have this thing. And since this one has the extra bonus disc, this one does not. So this one doesn't. This one just has the Blu-ray disc with just a few things on it. But it does have, I think on the actual movie Blu-ray disc, it does have extensive bonus features. But this one has additional stuff on the second disc, which has a lot more visual stuff like concept art and director's notebook stuff, different things here and there. But so having both of them is advantageous. So I have the maximum amount of stuff to go off of to produce the video from. So I don't think I'll get rid of the other version, but this one will be the prominent one on my shelf. But in terms of other stuff I picked up, because like I said, I'm doing this Pacific Rim video. It's going to be probably Wednesday now if everything still works out fine for me and my things level out in terms of my energies and all that type of stuff. Hopefully I'll get that going on Wednesday now to move forward on that. Other thing going on after that, I've talked about here and there, is that Retro Video Series episode on the Star Wars Special Edition home video history. Now, I got a couple more stories here. This one's short, but I decided to pull the trigger on buy the old Complete Saga Blu-ray set, which has just for the bonus features. And this one, I got this thing for a little over $10. I got my phone over there. I can't check it right now. It was a pretty damn good price. Pretty damn cheap price to get the first 6 films and the bonus disc, which has all those wonderful archival documentaries and features. I feel like I like to have as much as I can. Even though some of the stuff on YouTube I could download, good to have it from a Blu-ray I can rip it from and get the highest quality and deal with it on that regard. So I felt like that was just kind of a nice thing to invest in. And of course now I own the prequels again. I sold my DVDs of them several years ago where I realized I just never going to get anything else out of these ever again because I'm just not really all that interested in watching it. I did try, when I had Disney Plus sometime last year, I tried rewatching a bit of Revenge of the Sith, and I was like, man, this opening sequence is so padded to living hell. I could cut like 15 minutes out of this goddamn thing. It's so overly padded. And I already know the entire opening sequence was originally supposed to last like an hour of the film. You didn't cut enough out of it. You could have hacked that thing to bits. You got it one nice, tight and clean and whatnot. It's a very baggy film. A lot of problems I have. A lot of problems there. Anyway, so I still have that, but also I had this odyssey getting the Star Wars art books and everything, the special edition versions of. I already had A New Hope, and I recently, in the last year or so, picked up Return of the Jedi. And I was trying to hunt down the one for Empire Strikes Back. Now, the fact is I have the old 1994 one, which predates the special editions, so it doesn't have that addendum on it. I had the fucking hardest goddamn time getting this thing because the first seller I bought it from was a pain in the ass. This guy, who the fuck he is, ends up, I buy the thing, he gives me a nice, he sends me a seller offer. I accept the whole thing. The thing's supposed to ship out, I think I bought it on a Thursday. The thing was supposed to ship out by Monday. Well, Monday I ended up getting a USPS tracking number posted to the listing that I bought. But the thing sits around and it doesn't go anywhere. And so I'm trying to contact this guy, trying to figure out what's going on. It's like, he's giving a bunch of runaround bullshit type of things like, we do bulk mail. The thing was off-site or whatnot. I had to dig it out from storage or whatnot. It's like, well, you took the thing out of storage to take photos of it for the listing. Then you stuck it back in this storage in some off-site location. I said, and then always, since all the off-site stuff, it all ships out on Friday. It's like, well, the thing was supposed to ship Monday. And then the thing ends up being the fact that they ship it out Saturday, but he never sends me a new tracking number. I think it's still supposed to be the old tracking number that finally gets sent out. No, it's not. I get a notification from my UPS app saying, there's this label that's created and it's going to be shipping to. It's like, is this coming from the same city? Okay, what the hell is going on here? And then the thing takes, here's the whole thing here. It goes from a Thursday over to the Friday of the next week. The thing doesn't arrive until Wednesday, the following week, from UPS. This happens right after I get home from going to the theatrical screening of Return of the Jedi, which was a wonderful time. I really enjoyed it. Despite having problems with the alterations that are in the current versions, I still had a wonderful time. Because I was listening to my Heir to the Empire audiobook as I was going around doing stuff and going to the theater and stuff like that. And I had this mindset in that regard. And I still had a wonderful time on it. I really, really enjoyed it. It was something I was very glad for because I haven't seen it in the theater since 1997. And it was the Return of the Jedi, even though I know from my parents that we did go see E.T. like back in 82 or whatnot, my earliest memory is me seeing Return of the Jedi in the theater in 1983. Because I was 3 years old. My mom had to take me out of the theater because I was crying and having a little too much of a big reaction from the loud noises and the unmasked Darth Vader to me, who looked almost tantamount to Freddy Krueger. So, because I remember years later when I was walking in on my sister who was watching Spaceballs when Dark Hamill was about to take off his helmet, I kind of turned away or whatnot. I was like, oh no, it's nothing like that. So I had that reaction, but still, that's a great memory to still have in my head. And going back and watching the theater was another fantastic experience with all that stuff coming off. But coming home, after driving a long way out, I drove like an hour out to see it the biggest screen I could possibly find, which is Marcus Ultra Screen back down where I used to live. I wanted to have the biggest experience possible, so I get it out and this whole thing. And I come home to the freaking thing being delivered inside of a Star Wars Trivial Pursuit board game box. When I opened the thing up, it reeks of cigarette smoke. I got my money back. I sent the thing back. I got my money back. Fuck this guy. Completely fuck this guy. He pissed me off so much. So I eventually got my copy from Goodwill in Seattle, who do a very good job. It was a lot more money. It's about $17 or so. The other one was about $10 or so. But I got my copy. It's a lot better condition than the other one. The cover's not all scuffed up, and there's not sticky pages all over the place. It doesn't smell like smoke. So now I have all of them, and I'm very happy. That's my end of my rant. But the addendum sections on the back of them are not very extensive. They're very short, but it's like, I still wanted them. Still good types of things. And I'll get more into it when I get to the video, but apparently all three of these addendums were actually put into a single small book, same size in terms of like proportions here, but thickness-wise. It was actually put into the VHS collector's set back in 1997. So, but if you look online, they're selling for like $100 a piece, if not a lot more than that. So it's like, okay, I'm not ordering this thing. It was kind of I was tempted for a minute, but then it's like seeing all the prices, like, no, it's not necessary, or anything like that. So I am getting up to it. I did start making some notes regarding various releases that were put out at the time and slightly afterwards from US and Japan and Laserdisc and VHS. So I started putting those notes together. But the other stuff is more the fact of the changes made to everything. So I was like, I'm going to have to do the research and then trying to delegate exactly how much I'm covering in this one video. Because like I was going to do from 97 up to 06 covering the DVD releases, but there might be way too much. This might be like an hour and a half if I do that. So I'll have to collect all the information and the research and put all my notes together and figure out exactly how much I'm going to do in a single video, and then see if I have to break it off and do something else with this, yet another video after that, if I want to go that route. So it's a lot of information I was getting into. Is like there's a lot of stuff just breaking down the home video history, but also having to detail the stuff done to the soundtracks and the way of how they remastered things, and talking about the CGI editions, stuff like that. So there's a lot of ground to cover, but I'm going at a little bit at a time here. So a little bit here and there. So I was kind of alternating back and forth. Instead, I was way too headlong into all the Star Wars stuff, where I actually finished listening to the 13-hour Heir of the Empire audiobook on Audible. And so I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but fact is, I'm pausing getting more comic books because I haven't read any of this stuff yet. I haven't read any of this stuff. I haven't read the stuff I got from Free Comic Book Day, which is on May 6th, so this is a little bit behind. But I did grab up, actually put out, it's fairly thin, but there's a free comic book of Tom Holland's Fright Night. I figure, like, why the hell not? It's free. And it's kind of thin and flimsy, but it's like, didn't have anything else I wanted to grab, and the paper's kind of on the cheapo side in that regard. But anyway, grabbed up the DC prologue to their Night Terrors summer event series, which is looking very, very intriguing. But like I said, I got to cover other things. I've got to read Green Arrow #1. I've got to get up on this Batman Spawn freaking thick sucker right here. I got to read this stuff, and I got to get up on my Nightwing Rebirth Volume 3. So luckily there was nothing I needed to pick, nothing on my the comics I followed. There was nothing I was looking for last week that came out, so I'll have maybe another week or two before anything else comes out. But still digging Action Comics, still digging that Superman run. All wonderful, wonderful, absolutely fantastic. 100% recommendation on that regard. If you want, go check out the episode Sean Wayland and Jim Seguin did for Raging Bullets. They covered the latest issues of Superman and Action Comics. Did a phenomenal job in that regard. Another thing, they're launching a new series covering John Henry Ironshow's Steel, called Steelworks, written by Michael Dorn. Worf himself is writing this thing, so I'm very intrigued on that regard, because they're doing a backup story on Action Comics now, replacing the Power Girl one they were doing that I didn't care for. The Steel one is much more my flavor, so I'm definitely going to look for that in due time. I think that's coming out maybe this month, so stuff on that regard. But I figure, okay, well, since all that stuff's kind of out there and stuff like that, I figure I'll talk a little bit about that my experience with Heir to the Empire. Now, this is from Timothy Zahn, and obviously I did the 20th anniversary audiobook, which is unabridged. They previously did one which was narrated by Dennis Lawson, who portrayed Reg Antilles in the original trilogy, but that was way back in the days, and they did truncate it in some places. This one was redone by Mark Thompson and did the entire text, apparently, because it's unabridged. And he is very good voice actor, extremely good. One, the characterizations of everyone. This takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So you still have Han, Luke, Leia, Lando, 3PO, everyone. So, one, the characterizations are absolutely perfect. When we watching Return of the Jedi, you move into that, they feel completely seamless. So good. And his voice acting is very good. There's some I'm a little bit off with, but his Han is perfect. His Luke is wonderful. Even when he's doing the female voices with Leia, Mara Jade, still doing a very good job. I didn't feel like it was too awkward. Maybe losing a little bit of the more assertive qualities in the voice of what Carrie Fisher would do with the character, but still a very good job translating the text with his talents. Lando voice was a little off. He's playing it a little too more like when Lando first comes out on Cloud, he's like talking to Leia and whatnot. It's like, hello, what have we here? He's kind of always talking this kind of like jive sort of cadence to a certain degree, kind of like when he's trying to sell Colt 45 in those old commercials, playing a little too much, not kind of getting onto the regular dialogue timbre that Billy D. Williams would have throughout Empire and Jedi, but it's still pretty good. It's still okay. Felt it could have used a little extra work. The weirder freaking part of the whole thing is when Leia's out on Kashyyyk with the Wookiees, and there's one Wookiee character, considering that this is kind of way you have to write it in a certain way because she doesn't have 3 people to translate anything. There's one Wookiee who can actually speak basically in English or whatnot. He can talk regularly, more or less, through kind of a speech impediment. It's like, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Seeing like, it's trying to mix like a regular Wookiee voice with kind of a regular speech or whatnot. It was a very bizarre type of thing. It's not really his fault. It's just the way the thing's written. But it's a very good piece of work here because you introduce Grand Admiral Thrawn, and his work doing the voice on the character is splendid. Perfect. You can feel the character's cool demeanor all the way through the entire thing. His decisiveness, his calculated sensibilities about everything. And dealing with this sort of, what they were calling Dark Jedi at the time, because there was apparently, because in the original trilogy, they never said Dark Lord of the Sith. Even though there's cut footage for it, you could find here and there, but they never actually said it in the actual cuts of the film. And so, when Zahn's writing this whole thing, the term Sith has not really been known to him, so he's using the term Dark Jedi in exchange for it. And so they come across this character called Jerus Sabayoth, who's supposed to be this old Dark Jedi or Sith or whatnot that was in the ploy. Apparently like a clone or whatnot in this entire thing from the Clone Wars and stuff like that, before you had stuff pushed out of continuity from rewriting things with the prequels in that regard, trying to reestablish and define what certain things were in that era. But this character is being kind of courted by Thrawn to kind of come in and kind of help the Empire kind of reestablish its dominance to a certain degree, and try to take Leia's twins, who she's pregnant with right now, and kind of use them as the new sort of apprentices to him and stuff like that, and try to snuff out Luke to a certain degree. It's very good. There's a lot of good action, the whole thing, that really kind of propels the story. Certain points where it feels like there's a little, maybe a tad bit meandering in that regard. In some places where it's like, okay, there's certain things like maybe it doesn't quite have to be here or whatnot, or it's like it feels like it's a little too pondering in certain places here and there, but maybe that's more just how the way it's paced out as an audiobook than how you would read it generally, because you kind of have to have a certain dramatic quality of how the thing is being presented to the listener. But still, I found it very good. I found it very, very good. Just, again, have the entire like audio production, the whole thing, where you got the music and you got the sound effects and stuff like that, and ambiance to a certain degree. Really well done on that regard. All these ones I've heard from Star Wars, I've listened to Shadows of Empire many times. I've listened to the Bounty Hunter trilogy that was done with Boba Fett and Dengar and Bosk and stuff like that. All extremely well done productions in that regard, and this one is no different. I do want to get up on the next ones, but I feel like, okay, maybe take a week break. Take a week's break, catch up on a bunch of podcasts and stuff like that, and maybe go back into it, because I do have to buy more credits on Audible if I want to get up on it before the next month comes around and I get an extra credit to use on another book or whatnot, which is like the 28th of the month. So it's a little far off than I want to go for. So I'll probably pony up the money to get some extra credits, and I can get some other stuff, and I secure the next 2 books in the trilogy, and maybe by next month, since I think they sell them in like 3 credits at a time, so I'd have 4 at the start of the next month altogether. So I could probably grab the 2 other points in the 2 other books in the trilogy, and maybe grab those Exorcist ones I wanted for Blatty, so I could eventually do those videos and have that research behind me. So I'm going to grab things up a little faster than I wanted to. But I got an email for a free 30-day trial, and I contacted them when things weren't quite working out, and Audible set me up completely. Really good types of things on that. So they really fantastic customer service on that regard. My sister loves Audible herself. She listens to a lot of audiobooks too. So I really liked Heir to the Empire. It was a very solid piece of work overall. It's a very good story. Even though the main thing is like, okay, they set up this character of Sabayoth, and he's kind of set up to a certain degree, but the back half of the story, the back half of the novel, really doesn't have him involved in the entire thing. So he's kind of left off until like the next book in the trilogy. So he's still kind of mentioned here and there, but he's not an active part in the story after a certain point in the whole thing. So it's a little little interesting in that regard because Luke and Han and everyone else kind of go off into a different sort of adventure with this wonderful character I really like called Talon Card. He's a sort of smuggler, mercenary to a certain degree, but the voice acting was so superb. I loved what Mark Thompson did with this character. Gives a little bit of an accent to a certain degree, kind of this nice, calm, rational demeanor. This whole thing where he's the guy is just very much on that reasonable quality. You can negotiate with this guy. He's not as much of a rough and tumble type of guy like Han was, or maybe some other characters here and there you've encountered in the Star Wars lore or whatnot. He's got much more of a well-oiled sort of organization going on to a certain degree, and he could be very, like I said, calculated and perceptive, and kind of testing the waters when he's trying to deal with Thrawn, and Thrawn's kind of like doing the same type of thing. They're kind of playing a little bit of a chess game type of thing. He's not as much of a hard-edged type of character who's going to butt heads with people. He's trying to be a little bit more diplomatic to a certain degree, and trying to play the cards as dealt to him in some places. So, very clever types of things. They feel like very fleshed out characters. I couldn't see this thing being turned directly into like a 2-hour film. There's too many great set pieces, too many different things in terms of just fleshed out substantive stories to play in the whole thing. It would have to be more like a 10 or 12 like episode miniseries to really get all the substance out of it. So we need to kind of talk about like these being like back in the day in the EU or whatnot, the expanded universe being like a proper sequel trilogy in that regard. As books, absolutely, I'm definitely seeing that. But you couldn't quite do a one-to-one into a film. You really had to cut out a lot of different things, or condense certain things, or some other things like that, or just some things here and there. There's too much to cover in just a 2-hour film. There's too many stories, subplots. Not things that get complicated, but it's just the fact there's a lot of places to breathe when you have a novel of however many pages the whole thing is. You really have to kind of look at it in a different way if you're going to do that type of thing as a screenplay. You have to focus things down to much fewer characters, fewer storylines, and just boil it down to a certain degree. So, as a piece of literature, I can definitely see that. I feel it so much from the characterizations all over the place. You do feel like that little bit of a progression, how the characters have kind of grown a little bit more, how they kind of learned from where they have been before in the original trilogy, just a little bit more, just progress just enough here to feel like they're stepping into a new age or whatnot in their lives, in the saga, in their adventures, seeing where the next turn could be in the page of everything. So I thought it was a very well done thing. So I figured it'd be a nice thing to kind of share that with you guys, since I've been talking about things I've been reading or some other things involved with books. So, and since it's tied in with all the Star Wars stuff I'm getting into, I felt that was a very nice thing to add in here. Since I don't have any comics to talk about, that'd be a nice thing to add in. So if you're ever looking to get into Star Wars books, I definitely recommend getting into that. I've heard some, in terms of like Shadows of the Empire, here's some back and forth sort of criticisms here and there about the whole thing. Some people very much stand by it, very much endorse it. Some people have a little difficulty with some of the way it's written or some other things here and there. But they've only done an abridged audiobook, which was, I believe it was done by Anthony Heald, who was in Deep Rising. He was the guy who did the Artonauticus, the big millionaire guy who was kind of trapped in the whole situation and whatnot with everyone else. But great actor. I like him so much. But he did some great voice work on that. I think he also did the Bounty Hunter trilogy. But that was a bridge version, so maybe the full text has a little bit more things to get into in that regard. But I'm interested in getting, because they did a Star Wars Shadows of the Empire couple of comic books. And the thing is, with the Shadows of the Empire stuff, the book had kind of more of an overall overview of the entire story, but like the video game kind of followed Dash Rendar, and then the comic books followed the Bounty Hunter end of the storyline. So each medium got a different section of the entire story here. So it's not like adapting the thing from one thing to another. You got a different experience, whatever you went to. So they actually have an omnibus, which is seem like it's between like $40 to $50 right now. Where it might, Marvel might republish it at some point in time, but right now it's not on the market in that regard. But they have a couple of sequel things. They have the original one there, and then they have a sequel comic book. There's another thing I think involving maybe Mara Jade or whatnot. So I'm interested in grabbing it, maybe just for the right price, but not quite right now. But I'll see. Keep my eyes open for what might pop up online. But a lot of things I'm interested in that regard. So guys, I'll be hopefully getting on to Pacific Rim this week and getting that going. And should be fun. Should be very much fun to talk about the whole thing. And get off a cliffhanger by the end of the week. And let me know, you guys, what you think about all that type of stuff. And be around with you guys soon. And thank you much. Take care. Bye-bye.